Hi, everybody. It's Monday, midday. I'm meteorologist Joe Chaffee, and thanks for joining me on my YouTube channel. And we're going to start off today, excuse me, with the tropics. And I think we're going to wind up doing that for a good chunk of this week because of the fact that we have the possibility of some kind of tropical development in the Northwest Caribbean and eventually winding up into the Gulf of Mexico. Here's the tropical depression on the Pacific side, and you're going to see it just nudging right in there. It looks like the circulation center is offshore by a handful of miles, still probably far enough offshore that we could have this strengthen into a minimal tropical storm. The big threat here for Mexico has been, the south coast of Mexico, has been the abundance of heavy rains that are being pulled inland. The reason, it's my dog. He's a little upset this morning for some reason. Reason why we're looking at this is because this is part of the zone of tropical activity right now that looks like it's going to get especially active with respect to a lot of convection. And it's from this zone that we're going to wind up seeing the potential for some tropical storm development here over time. I want to show you on the water vapor imagery. You can compared to yesterday, the amount of dry air is beginning to shrink across the Caribbean. And you'll notice all through the tropical regions, we do have a lot of moisture and areas of convection that are developing. So it's from in here that something is going to wind up forming, I think, late this week and migrating up into the Northwest Caribbean and then eventually into the Gulf of Mexico. This is a large upper air storm that's spinning out in the Atlantic. It's nothing tropical or anything like that. It's at the high levels of the atmosphere. And you know, these dark brown, almost whitish shadings, that is dry air in the atmosphere that's drawn down deep into the tropics. When you have a lot of dry air like that, it's going to preclude tropical storm development. Plus, this is an area that normally does not get development this time of year. It's usually in the Northwestern Caribbean and into the Gulf of Mexico. If you're going to get something, that's where it's going to wind up being. So we're going to take a look at the GFS from last night. Might be, let's see how far out it is today. Okay, so let's go to the new run, see if we have it out far enough. All right, so we've got, this is for this afternoon. By the way, right across here, just a reminder, the date and time. So there's your date, and it's in Greenwich time. So when it says 0Z Tuesday, that is actually 8 o'clock Eastern time, and 12Z is 8 a.m. Eastern time. I'm sorry. I'm not sure why he's like this today. I've got some people doing some work in the yard, so maybe that's what it is. All right, so you get a lot of activity around here. You get me, you get maps, you get satellite pictures, you get animals doing whatever they're doing. And if you're wondering about the cat, he's actually behind the laptop right now. All right, so let's look at this. We're into Wednesday and Thursday. You can see a lot of this convection across the tropical regions increasing on the Pacific side. And then there we have it right into Friday night, Saturday morning. So 6Z Saturday is actually 2 a.m. Eastern time Saturday morning. A low pops up in the Northwestern Caribbean. Now, I don't have it out far enough beyond this time frame, so I'm going to go back one model run and show you that it matches up there pretty well. And what the GFS did last night, you have lower than normal pressures that are going to be covering this region from late this week on. So it kind of seems logical that something's going to develop there, and it does have a closed off low in the Northwestern Caribbean that it pulls into the Gulf of Mexico and on up toward the northeastern coast of Mexico, maybe the south coast of Texas. This looks like it might be a pretty wet tropical storm if this is indeed the case, if this winds up happening, okay? And in fact, we're now into next Friday, so it takes at least a few days for this thing to play through. It doesn't look like a quick mover on this model. The European last night did the same thing. You can see the low here. This is Friday evening at 8 p.m. It takes it over the Yucatan Peninsula and then into the Gulf of Mexico. Probably lower pressures there Sunday, and then a little low closes off there and heads for the Texas coast Tuesday and Wednesday. This, again, still in kind of speculative mode here because it's only Monday, but it's just been kind of remarkable that the models have been showing this for many days now. So I'm kind of starting to pay more attention to this. It just seems to make sense given everything that we're seeing. Now, let's look at the weather from a practical standpoint everywhere else. And we will start with the GFS, and I'll put the moisture on it. So, we've got this heat going on here in the eastern part of the United States with these westerly winds and the high off the South Atlantic coast. That continues for one more day. Then we have tomorrow evening a cold front that moves on through. It's been pretty well advertised. There's some cool air behind it. The hot air gets suppressed to the south as that front drops southward. That makes total sense. And Wednesday, we start to get into a northeast to east flow, which actually becomes a pretty decent looking southeast flow here on Thursday. So that's going to bring in the issue of possibly some clouds, and also the fact that temperatures Thursday are going to be even cooler than Wednesday. I think there'll be a lot of places on Thursday may not get out of the 60s, especially if we have cloud cover around. So that'll be a big switch from the 90 plus that we're seeing today, saw yesterday, seeing today, and then tomorrow. And then a front starts to push in from the west, but it's another one of these slow-moving systems. So as we go into Friday and the weekend, Father's Day weekend, looks like an increasing chance for showers and thunderstorms. And I'll back up one run here so you can take a look. So now we're into Saturday, and then on Sunday, still the chance for some showers and storms on Father's Day until the front gets out of the way on Monday. And yet another system comes in for Tuesday and Wednesday. You can see there's the tropical system on this map on the southwestern edge, and then it moves out, and still another front. Now we're into June 25th. So we're into this pattern where we're going to have weather fronts coming through every couple of days. That means it can't get hot for more than a day or so because of the fact that weather systems are moving along. Meanwhile, let's look at the west, because we do have some action going on in the west today. There's rain and snow in northeastern California and the Sierra Nevadas and on up northern parts of Nevada. Amazing for this time of the year even there. But, they may be skiing in some of those places up in Northern California from well into July, the way between the snow cover from the winter that still probably is there to some degree, and some additional snows in some of the highest elevations. This low moves up into the Northern Rockies, and then with the ridge in the west, it's likely that weather will just kind of calm down after that as we go into Father's Day weekend. For the most part, it looks pretty good out west, and into the week of June 19th. Weather looks like typical summertime mode. There's your tropical storm on the GFS coming in for the middle part of early to middle part of next week and taking its sweet time. I'm going to just one more time see if we have a little bit more of the GFS model here with regards to the zone with the tropics. So this is the new model, and we're at 126 hours here. So that's Saturday afternoon. So we really don't have too much. We do have a low that's closed off in the northwestern Caribbean. So maybe that might indicate that a tropical depression could be forming at that point. We'll see. The overall upper air pattern is relatively busy for this time of year. And, we've got this ridge in the east. That's no surprise. That's what we're dealing with now with the heat. A little bit deep trough moves off the coast of Newfoundland, and that is enough to push this back door through and cool it off. And then you have this next trough swinging out of the Pacific. That deep trough that's in the western part here, right in there, that's going to pull out because there's another system behind it. So that sort of starts to get kicked along to the east. And let me back up one run. And you can see that that trough then brings a front through, and then yet more energy coming in. Ridge builds out in the west, so when you have a ridge in the west, that means a trough in the east. Really, this is a pretty busy pattern going into the second part of the month of June. And it looks like the model wants to build the ridge sometime toward the end of the month, but, with another trough out in the west, but who knows at that point. So, going forward, we have a lot to look at. We've got a pretty active June upper air pattern. We have the potential for some tropical development along the way. Here's a satellite view this morning of the west. We're at the midday hour now. There's that large upper air storm turning over Nevada and northeastern California. So no surprise that they're seeing some snows in the higher elevations, some activity up in the Northern Rockies as well. In the east, beautiful blue skies here with the hot weather in the ridge. Still have some kind of disturbance in the eastern Gulf of Mexico that's producing clouds and showers from parts of Georgia on south-south westward toward the Yucatan Channel. This is not part of that tropical activity we were talking about earlier. And then we have this weather front that's up to the north that's producing some showers and thunderstorms. And if we look at, where's that radar? Here we go. There's the activity down in Florida, the showers and storms in the upper Midwest and the central and northern plains. And of course, here's that rain and probably some snow that's going up in parts of northwestern Nevada and northeastern California. Very, very interesting indeed. I just want to show you, just to finish off, this is Long Island temperatures right now at the midday hour. You know, I pointed out yesterday that, you know, if you're not familiar with Long Island, the famous Long Island Expressway pretty much cuts the island in half like this, okay? And that actually winds up being a pretty good demarcation line. There's three of them that I use. There's that. There is Sunrise Highway, which is right about there. And then we also have, it depends on where you are, but we have a parkway called the Northern State Parkway that meanders in Nassau County, but kind of runs and then extends out east into more of a local roads and so on. But kind of use those as demarcation lines. Here you have temperatures. You drop down south to Sunrise and you start to see the temperatures fall off into the 80s and 70s. And right on the beaches, it's probably in the low 70s. And then you just go a handful of miles, literally a handful of miles inland. It's only about 10 miles or so 10 air miles from here to here. So at midday, we've got mid 80s and lower 90s. But as we move through the afternoon, that sea breeze is going to push up. Probably by about 3 or 4 o'clock, it'll be close to the Long Island Expressway, and after about 5 o'clock or so, it winds up going north. But this is because of the fact that the ocean water temperatures are as cold as they are this time of year, still in the middle and upper 50s. And I'll just widen out a little bit so you can get a view of temperatures so far going into this afternoon. And, you know, it's mostly low 90s across New Jersey. It's not, for some reason, it doesn't want to plot them elsewhere, but you can see the idea that it's mostly low 90s, even a few middle 90s beginning to show up in a couple of spots from eastern Pennsylvania, and then interior areas of southern New England and into the lower Hudson Valley. So a hot, hot day for sure as we move ahead on day 2 of this quote-unquote heat wave that's going to be 3 days of 90-plus temperatures. And I said yesterday, by the way, if it was up to me, it would be the old rule. 5 days of 90 would constitute, or better, would constitute a heat wave. And if you want to throw it in there, 3 days of 95 plus to me would constitute a heat wave. But 3 days of 90 plus to me is just kind of dumbing the whole thing down. All right, enough of my opinion. Check out website posts on meteorologistjoechaffee.com, Long Island specific posts on weatherlongisland.com, New York City specific posts on nycweathernow.com with Angry Ben. And thank you very much, my regular subscribers to my YouTube channel. If you're new, you're just seeing this video for the first time, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's absolutely free. You'll get notifications when new videos come up, which is once a day, except in storm situations when I may put up another weather video, a second weather video. And, of course, every once in a while I do throw up some other things, like my fishing yesterday. If you haven't looked at it, there's a fishing video. Not that I caught anything. I actually had better luck catching the 4 trains that went by on the railroad tracks near me than I had catching any fish. All right, have a great day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.